I've been a personal trainer specialized in fat loss for over a decade, and 95% of the people who come to me are unknowingly making one of these 3 to 5 mistakes in their habits that keep them stuck, including myself when I first started this journey. I was doing all the right things, eating clean, meal prepping, saying no to desserts and all my favorite foods, and training super hard, hitting 25,000 steps a day, and still feeling miserably fat, bloated, low energy, and disgusting. Not to mention I was frustrated because my efforts just weren't working and I was putting in so much time and effort. It wasn't until I uncovered these 5 hidden habits that things finally started to shift for me and for the hundreds of clients that I helped after I solved this for myself. And in today's video, I'm gonna walk you through the 5 habits that might be keeping you out of shape, low energy, and stuck in the endless cycle of trying hard but seeing 0 results. So the first habit is staying up late. A lot of people can relate with this because especially when prayer times get late in the summer, but even in the winter, a lot of people just have bad habits of staying up till 2 a.m., whether it's to get work done, watching Netflix, chilling after a long and stressful day. It's the only time you have for yourself. But the problem is people end up binge eating on all kinds of snacks because nobody really makes any good decisions after 10 p.m. The funny thing is this is actually a documented psychological phenomenon called reverse procrastination syndrome or revenge procrastination syndrome, whatever you want to call it. It's the fact that you're grinding hard all day long, taking care of everybody except for yourself. And then because you never took time to take care of your mental health and of yourself and pour into yourself, the only time that you really have to do that and have an outlet is late at night when you want to watch Netflix and go into the fridge and eat a bunch of ice cream and junk and go in the pantry, crunchy, salty, unhealthy snacks, also the junk that people eat that I used to eat all night long as well. So it didn't matter how healthy I ate during the day. If I was just going to sabotage my progress at night, no wonder I was fat, and not just fat, but miserably fat. I was working so hard in the day only to undo my progress at night. Now, there are some pretty comprehensive solutions on this, which I cover in other videos, but essentially the principle is that you need to have some self-care during the day. Even going for a couple walks during the day, having some time for yourself, even within your workouts and other productive habits can really make a big difference. And I have other videos that go really deep into this that you can check out on my channel that are very popular, such as my 6-step stress guide, which you could check out after this. But once you get this dialed in and you're taking care of yourself during the day, eating healthy nutrition throughout the day like I teach in my other videos as well, then you'll find it much easier to get to bed right after Isha as opposed to staying up all night long, struggling to fall asleep because your hormones are dysregulated from bad nutrition and bad stress, and because you feel this need to fulfill your desires at the end of the night. Now, the second bad habit is eating healthy foods but in the wrong quantities. Unfortunately, I know this one brother who's a very, very good brother, such a good Muslim, such a good guy with such a good heart, works out every day, he's on his grind, but the thing is, this brother is severely obese. And it's not like he eats unhealthy, he's eating tons of olive oil, chicken, beef, fruits, vegetables, but the problem is that the quantities of foods that he's eating are very excessive. It doesn't matter how healthy the food you're eating is. Even if you're eating the healthiest food in the world, if you overeat your calories, you're going to gain body fat. And it's unfortunate because the brother's eating healthy, he's meal prepping. I've tried to talk to him about this, but the dude just keeps eating and has a giant appetite. And the funny thing is that I used to be this way too because I have a massive appetite. Before I ever tried tracking my calories, I thought I was maybe eating 2,500 calories a day. I was like, yeah, I should be in a deficit. I should be losing weight. But when I actually tracked, I was eating 4,000 calories a day without even realizing it. There are some people in this world, including me and possibly you, not everybody, but there are a lot of people who just have a massive appetite and they don't realize because if you don't track and you're just eating healthy foods, you think you're losing weight. And you see these people online who say, yeah, you can just lose weight. You don't have to track calories, just eat whole foods. Yeah, that works if you have a small appetite or even a medium appetite. But if you have a very big appetite, it's not going to work. When I was fat, I was eating a lot of olive oil. I thought I wasn't pouring that much, but I was pouring a lot more than I thought I was until I actually started measuring it. I was adding super high quality, raw, organic, unfiltered honey to my food, but I was adding way too much of it, was jacking up the calories as well. I was adding grass-fed whole milk to my coffee, not realizing how many calories was adding up. And I would eat grass-fed lamb because it's supposed to be healthy, but lamb has a crazy amount of calories. And I don't recommend the high-fat meats if you're trying to lose fat anyways. You want those lean meats because they're a lot lower in calories to where you can eat a larger quantity that satisfies your appetite without getting fat. But even then, if you eat 100 pounds of chicken breast, that still does add up. And while you're unlikely to eat 100 pounds of chicken breast, eating too much of any healthy food, especially a calorie-dense healthy food like olive oil or avocados and all those other healthy foods that are healthy, nuts, dates, these foods are healthy, but they're very calorie dense, and so overeating them can be problematic. And this ties in with another strategy, which is that you want to eat foods that are nutrient dense, protein dense, but not very calorie dense to where you can get full off very little calories and stay full off very little calories, which is one of the many benefits of protein that I talk about in a lot of other videos. Now, this kind of leads into habit number 3, which is justifying overeating by the fact that you train really hard. Now, for me, when I have an awesome workout, of course there's a part of me that says, this is my excuse to eat all the food that I want because I got to make them gains. I got to make gains, bro. But then when you go and make too many gains and the wrong type of gains and you don't track them and you end up overeating for the whole day and building these gluttonous eating habits of eating too much, it becomes a problem. And in the past, I used to go and eat burgers, all kinds of junk food, and just justify by, oh yeah, I train, it's going to go to muscle. And so many people do this. They go to a family gathering or a buffet and they just eat this crazy amount of protein dense but also very calorie dense food, and they think it's going to go to gains because they train super hard. But no, you can't out-train a bad diet. When your calories are too high, it's going to mess you up. And scientific research and my own personal experience has shown you don't need that much of a calorie surplus to gain muscle. And in fact, too excessive a surplus will just make you gain more fat. Yes, you gain more size and more weight more quickly, and you think you're gaining muscle because you feel all pumped and big and strong because fat gives you a bit of leverage, especially on your bench press. But in reality, yes, maybe you're getting stronger, but you're getting a lot fatter than you need to be. The best way to gain muscle is gain muscle slow. And if you're trying to lose weight, you gotta kind of let go of this desire to eat so much food and start training yourself to eat less. Within reason, of course. You also don't want to crash diet and go too low, but that's beyond the discussion today. The habit is that people justify overeating by the fact that they train hard, but you cannot out-train a bad diet. You gotta know where your calories are at, and you can't overeat under any circumstance or it's going to sabotage your progress because it takes you out of a calorie deficit, and the calorie deficit is the entire mechanism by which fat loss is driven. So anything that compromises your deficit will compromise your fat loss results. And so even if you had the craziest, most awesome gain session with the sickest pump in the world, you gotta resist the temptation to make muscle gains from that, and especially to overeat from that, because that's not even optimal for your muscle gains. And you have to keep your eyes on the prize, get the fat loss done, then you can go back to gaining muscle. But even when you gain muscle, do a clean mass gaining phase as opposed to a dirty bulk where you're just getting fat. And by the way, I've had dirty bulks where I gained 80% fat and only 20% muscle. Terrible mistake. Don't make these dumb mistakes. Keep it clean and lean at all times. Yes, when you're in a mass gaining phase, you can eat more food, but again, the calories need to be controlled. It needs to be a controlled surplus. And on the days where you have higher activity levels, you could potentially eat more, but again, then you're kind of undoing all the effort you're trying to do to create even more of a deficit by increasing your activity. Again, don't be excessive, don't be too little. Too little or too much, both is going to mess you up. You have to find that right balance where you're losing fat at a good moderate pace of about 1% of your body weight per week on average. Now, this ties in with habit number 4, which is fasting to try to compensate for overeating. I have 2 clients in particular, both who eventually got really good results once they signed on with our program, but when they were trying to do this on their own, they would overeat like crazy and then do these 3-day water fasts and all other kinds of fasts to try to compensate for their overeating. And so what we did was we actually put them on a proper meal plan where they were spreading out their calories, which is a lot more optimal for your digestion, for your metabolism, for everything, and they lost a lot of weight. So one of the brothers, Shariar, he lost 42 pounds in 6 months. The other brother, we're gonna reveal his transformation a little bit later. You can go check out Shariar's interview on my page though. But the other brother, we're gonna reveal it soon. This brother, mashallah, has gotten absolutely shredded. He's gone down from 210 to 185. This other brother, who again, we're gonna reveal him and his name a little bit later. But both Shariar and this other brother had this problem before where they were doing this chronic fasting to compensate for overeating, but by getting more moderate calories spread throughout the day, it helped them to control their appetite and not feel this need to binge. Because the problem is that if you do these long extended fasts to compensate for overeating, at the end of that fast, you're going to want to overeat again because you're so hungry after all that fasting. And on top of that, you justify it because you're like, oh yeah, I just did this long fast, I can overeat. And then you overeat and you're like, oh dang, I really overdid it. Time to fast again. You repeat this toxic cycle where you're just crashing your metabolism, losing muscle, messing up your metabolism, just everything, and messing up your relationship with food. So don't fall into this foolish mistake. You're not a fool just because you've made this mistake, but now that you know better, you're a fool if you continue it. You know, it's an easy mistake to make when we're unaware of these principles, but that's my whole goal here, is to make you aware of the principles so that you don't make these silly mistakes anymore. Now, habit number 5, mistake number 5 is that people create a calorie deficit with their diet, but they have a very low step count to where they're not actually burning that many calories per day. On top of that, I'm gonna give you a 3-in-1. Not only do they not hit enough steps, they don't eat enough protein, they don't train properly. Now, why is this a multifaceted issue and how are these things related? So if you do eat in a calorie deficit and you don't hit enough steps, you'll probably still lose a little bit of weight for the first 1 to 2 months, but it's not gonna be as fast as you want. And at month 2 or month 3, you're gonna hit a hard plateau. And at that point, you have to look at your step count, because the body, once you've lost a good amount of weight, it says, okay, well, we need to suppress these energy levels that are burning all these calories because we're under a starvation period here. So your body starts to restrict your energy expenditure in kind of, you know, hidden ways, including reducing your step count. So if your step count drops and you didn't even realize it, you're kind of screwed. Versus if you keep your step count consistent and keep increasing it over time as your body gets used to it, then you keep the body adapting and losing body fat because you maintain that deficit. That being said though, a lot of people try to eat less only to find that they're not actually in as much of a deficit as they thought because their step count is only 3,000 steps a day. A good step count to start shooting for is 8,000. Once that's easy for you and you're used to it and your body is kind of adapted to it to where the progress isn't coming as fast, you can up to 10, then you can even up it to 12, and some people can even up to 15. But again, This is after many months. Don't just start with 15 right off the bat, or you have nowhere to progress without overloading your body, because past 15,000 steps, it becomes a little bit too stressful for the body. So that's the first one of these, 3-in-1 issues, and I saved the 3-in-1 best for last because you stayed till the end, so appreciate you. Now, number 2 is they're not training properly. If you don't train properly to stimulate muscle growth in the gym, then what's your body gonna do in this period where it's like, okay, well, we're losing a bunch of calories, we gotta lose weight somewhere. Well, we're not really using all this muscle, and this muscle is costing us a lot of calories, so let's start pulling calories from this muscle. So your body starts to lose muscle because you're not training properly. Muscle is a metabolically expensive tissue, which is great because it burns so many calories that it helps you lose fat. But if you start losing muscle, then your metabolism slows down, and now you're no longer burning as many calories. You hit a plateau, you look worse, you feel tired, weak, your strength goes down in the gym, you don't fill out your shirts anymore, and you feel really miserable. So make sure you're training properly to build and possibly even gain muscle while you're in a fat loss phase, or at least maintain it, so that you're not slowing your metabolism down and so that you're exclusively losing fat, not just losing a bunch of muscle and thinking, oh wow, my weight is going down so fast. Well, that weight is coming from muscle. Do you want to lose 20 pounds of fat, or you want to lose 20 pounds of muscle? Do you want to lose 20 pounds of fat, or do you want to lose 10 pounds of fat and 10 pounds of muscle? No, obviously don't lose muscle. Trust me, I've had times where I messed this up and I lost muscle and I severely regretted it. All my strength went down, and on top of that, I didn't even look good at the end, and my metabolism was crashed, so it was very easy to gain the fat back once I came off the diet. No, you want to keep that muscle mass high, and you want to transition off the diet properly, which is a topic for another video. And likewise, this is why it's important why you eat enough protein, because let's say you just nuke your calories, you just stop eating. If you're not getting enough protein, you're going to lose muscle as well. So you have to train properly, you have to get enough protein so you're keeping your muscle, so everything you lose is fat, and make sure your steps are high enough so you're in a sufficient deficit so that you're not just wasting your time, having to eat so little or eating very little food yet barely seeing results. No, you want to just get that fat loss done and then get out of there. Again, don't do too much, don't do too little. That could be mistake number 6, is that people overdo it or underdo it. You want to find that perfect sweet spot. And again, I know this can be hard to establish on your own. So if you want to do this pro from the get-go and you're done trying to figure this out alone, I've opened up a few call spots this week for a consultation. If you're ready to take control, the link to book is below.